Let's go ahead and take a look at finding the mean and standard deviation of the binomial distribution. So there's two ways that we can go about looking at the mean and standard deviation. One way is that we can use a formula. For the binomial distribution, if I want to find the mean, the symbol is mu sub x, and the formula for finding the mean is n times p. To find the standard deviation, the symbol is sigma sub x, and the formula is the square root of n times p times 1 minus p. We can also find the mean and standard deviation if we had a list of all the probabilities written out. We could treat it like a probability distribution, the way you had back in Chapter 4 or the beginning of Chapter 5. But it's much simpler with the formulas for the binomial because we don't have to have all the data. So let's look at an example. Let's suppose that when looking at a person's eye color, it turns out that 1% of people in the world has green eyes. Consider 20 people. So in this case, my random variable x is going to be the number of people in the sample of 20 with green eyes. If I want to find the mean and standard deviation using my formulas, I could say, okay, then the mean is n times p. And in this case, we were told that 1% of people in the world have this property that we're looking at. So probability p is 0.01. And we're looking at a group of 20 people, so n is 20. So we go ahead and compute 20 times 0.01 equals 0.2. So in a group of 20 people, the average number of people that would have green eyes, the expected value, is 0.2, which means if I were to take many groups of 20, on average, the average number of people with green eyes in all those groups would be 0.2. Okay, the standard deviation, sigma x, is the square root of n times p times 1 minus p. So that's the square root of 20 times 0.01 times 1 minus 0.01. So on our calculator, we would type that as the square root of 20 times 0.01 times, and make sure that the subtraction is in parentheses, 1 minus 0.01. Okay, if your calculator is set up a little bit differently, maybe it's an older one, when you put the square root in, you have to make sure that you close both sets of parentheses. Okay, so we get 0.445. And that's the easy way to compute mean and standard deviation for a binomial. Keep in mind, this only works if you've already verified that this is a binomial.